Hello folks and welcome to Tippcast. Once again with myself, Shane Stapleton, joined as ever by Shane Brophy, Head of Sport in the Nenagh Guardian. And delighted to say we have a man, Eamon Kelly, who's gone through an up and down weekend. We were just saying it before we came live. I was in a county final as Patrick's well manager, came up a little bit short against the Tipperary, but then of course Kiladangan glory would have softened the pain a little bit. Eamon Kelly, how are you?
Very good, thanks. Very good.
Yeah, will you talk to us how you juggled that weekend? Because, you know, you had that match on TV, we saw it there on Saturday night, 4 points, I think the Pierce came out on top. You probably had to commiserate for the evening and then raise yourself again for a classic encounter with Thurles.
Yeah, listen, so Saturday was very disappointing. You know, we didn't hurt anywhere near our potential. I would bet be 4 points, I'd call it a 4-point hammering, to be honest. You know, I haven't reviewed it, I looked at it, we probably lost 10 of the 15 battles. But it was great to have the lift on Sunday with the lads getting across the line in a fantastic hurling game, you
know. Yeah. Shane, how was your weekend?
Good now. I know, like I thoroughly enjoyed that county final on Sunday. Like, it was a real game, like, and I suppose after the caginess of the drawn match, it was great to see, I suppose, both teams really, really going for it. Like, just like to finish the championship off like that was excellent. And I suppose, look, we got the worthy champions. I think on the course of the day, like, if Kiladangan, there were probably 2, 3, 4 point worthy winners, like they were hanging on for finish. I suppose Ronan's last minute shot, you're thinking if the right man has the ball and he has the distance, but he just didn't have the accuracy. And I was just uplifted, like, you know, it was just a real gripping county final again.
Yeah, what was it like to watch on throughout that game, Eamon? Because it went both ways. Sars were 4 points up in the last quarter. You're kind of thinking, right, will they hold on here? All of a sudden, another burst from Kiladangan, and they found a way. So what was it like in terms of a roller coaster for you?
I suppose what you said is a roller coaster is a good way of describing it, you know, particularly to start that Sars got the way back into it. And I thought the way they were hurling, like, they should be 6 or 7 points up. But Aidan McCormick's ball really lifted the siege for Sars, you know. But credit to the lads, I think it was probably a case of we can't lose another one. And they kept going and kept, you know, like, we had 9 different scorers from play, you know, so it wasn't just a case of a one man. I know Sean Hayes got the key score with the goal, but I think it was a way better team performance, you know, than we've had in the last few county finals. So there certainly was a roller coaster. It was credit to the lads that they never actually panicked. They just stuck to their task. And as you said a minute ago, with the one fella we didn't want to see a ball falling out to in injury time was to Ronan, and he'd probably score 9 times out of 10 with that shot. And just for us, it was fortunate that he missed.
Yeah, it was. It was. How would you say? It was. I suppose that the reason I stuck with Kiladangan as my favourites for the replays is I thought that they had a greater scope for improvement from the drawn game. I thought they were playing second fiddle. I thought they looked, I wouldn't say lethargic, but they definitely didn't have the same energy they had last weekend. They were, even though they went 4 points down at the very start, 6 down, they were moving an awful lot better. And I thought that probably helped with Thurles changing their setup. Like Ronan, Mark, Billy Seymour this time, that played no sweeper. It was real man for man stuff. And while initially Thurles got the bit of joy there, definitely after about 10, 12 minutes, like, Kiladangan's half-back line really stormed into the match. And like they themselves, and I suppose Tigey and Declan McGrath, those 5 guys, Willie and Joe Gallagher and Alan Flynn, they were the 5 guys I thought were central to the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think they have all our half-back line scored, you know, which is a testament. And like with all the hurlers that Thurles have, they have only 3 scorers from play, you know. So I think it was definitely the backs really, you know. I think they when they were needed most, like they held a lot of marquee forwards. You know, even like Dara Stakenham, an up and coming star, to hold him to 2 points, you take that all day long, you know.
I suppose if there was one mistake Kiladangan made, was their matchups, was not putting James Quigley on Paddy Creedon at the start. Was like it was a mismatch with Paddy and Fergal Hayes, and Thurles took advantage of it at the start.
Yeah, I suppose Paddy's physicality with Fergie, maybe when worked, he scored 1-3. He certainly, you know, he did rise the siege for him at that stage, you know. But listen, the lads got to terms with it. They made the changes and they shut it down.
Yeah, look, I was the way I did up the stats, and Shane, you might do them slightly differently, but in terms of chances created, I would include, like shots that were blocked, shots that were hooped, shot attempts that dropped short, and all that. But over the course of the game, Eamon, I had Kiladangan down for 45 scoring attempts. I had Thurles down for 30. So to me, like you said earlier there about it being a 1 point or a 4 point hammer in the Limerick County final for your Patrick's Well team. This was not a hammering at all, but in terms of the amount of chances created, if you were to just go on that 50% more chances created, Kiladangan could have, pulled away a nice bit in this game. It's not how it happens, but Kiladangan created so many chances, they'd be absolutely kicking themselves if they didn't get over the line.
Oh, definitely, because that's why I said it was one of the best team performances, and as I said already, when you have 9 scorers across the field and you're half back line on scoring, it would have been absolutely devastating not to get a result out of it, But listen, I think testament to the lads, they kept with it, and it was the hurt of losing, 2 last or a draw and losing 1 last year, and we've been to the well a few times and not getting there. I think that just, they kept going, at least they're creative 45 chances, which is a good thing too,
Shane, what do you make of the chance creation?
Oh no, and I even the 10 wides in the first half, I think up to about 7 of them were very good chances. It just weren't converted, and I was sort of there every time Andy Lucknan got the ball. I said, Andy, just don't shoot, just get it to somebody else. In fairness, Andy got an awful lot of ball, and no shoot, he can score, but it was just one of those days where he was just wasn't going for him. But when you had Billy Seymour and Sean Hayes, like Sean Hayes, really this year, I think he looks like that minor we saw a few years ago who we had all the potential, but he was very raw. But he just seems to have all gelled together there this year. Particularly in I wouldn't say a newish position at wing forward, but it's I suppose in the modern game, it's actually made for him where he doesn't have to stand in under too many puckouts. But when the ball is loose in general play, he comes alive. And like I thought that the goal he got, not just the finish, but the way when he gave the pass to Declan McGrath, he immediately looked for the pass back. He didn't feel that his job was that done for that. He was alive to the fact that there was a 1-2 on, and like the pass from Declan McGrath was ridiculous. I think he did the same against Toom in the semi-final. I think he gave a pass to Brian Malachy for a goal. I think it was just just the passing as well. I for the likes, I would have. I went with Willie Connors for man of the match, but more I think about it, I thought Sean Hayes was outstanding all through.
Do you know, and Eamon, I'll just ask you, very quiet start the first day out in the group stages against Thurles. Remember, Thurles had a goal on the board after 2 or 3 minutes, something like that. Kiladangan completely took over the rest of the game and won handsomely. This game took over for long spells, but, over the line by a point. In the first half, after going 1-4 to a point down, so that was 9 minutes on the clock. For the rest of the half, Kiladangan created 23 chances to 5. Like, it's rare you'd see a takeover like that. And I just wonder, like, as much as brilliant team performance in how they won the ball, if more ball was delivered into the forwards rather than shooting from 100 yards, that seems to be the one blot on the copybook. Now, some of them go over, but Jesus, so many of them do not. What do you make of that side of things? And is that something that can be changed from this point, or do they want to?
Listen, it's a good question, and I suppose I'm not close enough to know was that a tactic to shoot from outside and maybe avoid the ball getting near Ronan and breaking ball, like they did get some fantastic scores from out the field as well, but maybe it's if you could tidy up the efficiency of it. And I'm sure to be horses for courses, they'll probably maybe look at Clonlara and reassess that, because I think the one weak line that maybe Clonlara have will be their inside back line, so you might get more ball into your full forward line. So I think it's possibly horses for courses where I'd see it, but definitely that type of wastage maybe against top class opposition. If you were fortunate enough to get to a Munster final against a Ballygunner or an Apirshik, you won't get away with that kind of wayward shooting then, But I'm sure like the lads will, George Hannigan and John O'Mara and George McCourtin aspect, and Sean will certainly look at that, and I'm sure they'll tidy it up.
But there's no doubt they're a team that the wides doesn't take away their confidence. I know they hit a lot of wides against Rossgrave the first day out, the North final as well. I think it was near 20 wides against Thurles in the drawing game. So like maybe it's something from the manager to say, lads, if the shot is on, take it. Like, and look, we'll just get set for the puck out if it goes wide. Like, it's just that they're guys. If you get a good look, take it on. Like, and look, we know they have, like, when you say 9 different scorers on the day, like, and like Andy Lucknan had a couple of shots. Like Brian Malachny was, I think he was probably the only forward that didn't score. Dan O'Mara got a point. So like they're not shy on shooting anyway, and they're not fearful in that regard anyway.
Yeah, and Eamon, that to me would say that there's a further place that this team could go. I mean, like Billy Seymour, he scored 9, 6 frees. Sean Hayes won 1, Willie Connors and Ty Gallagher 3, Decky McGrath 2, then a point each for Joe Gallagher, Dan O'Mara and Paul Flynn. Like Brian Malachny, relatively quiet. Andy Lucknan would probably get a few scores normally. Paul Flynn, pretty quiet in terms of scoring. Like, and normally he goes to town in county finals. So that to me would suggest that there's an awful lot of further distance this team could go.
I agree, and it's probably satisfying that we weren't over dependent on Paul, because he was our go-to man in the drawing game, and the rest of the lads stood up. I say Andy's probably there more for Andy's work rate is ferocious. The amount of hooks, blocks, tackles, turnovers he gets and sets it up for other guys, I think that's probably his main function. Brian Malachny, by his own standards, were quiet in both games. Well, I back Brian all day to come again, and I'm hoping that the lads will hurl with a bit of freedom now. Like, the monkey is off. This is our first time getting into senior club. Like, when we won it in 2020 with COVID, there was no Munster campaign. So I'm just hoping the lads will embrace this and have a go and see where it can take them. Because I think they're hurling. We're like, even seeing it in Limerick and been to other counties involved in Clare for years. Like, it's these lads are as good as what's around, and they have as good a chance. And Shane, you'd know it, having been through club campaigns in Dublin, like, and Leinster. I genuinely think the lads, if they embrace this and maybe hurl with a bit of freedom, and there's not as much tension in the shoulders, hopefully long range points will go over.
Yeah, no, like I definitely think that, like, sometimes you see a team maybe after a county, they mightn't be focused on provincial club, but definitely the fact that Kiladangan didn't get a go at it in 2020, I think they'll be right. They'll have 3 weeks they can really enjoy this week, and then next weekend and knuckle down for Clonlara. And then I suppose you have the pedigree from the team you were with, Eamon, back in 04-05, winning that intermediate club All-Ireland. So like there won't be any shortage of I suppose advice. Even sure you look at Dara. Dara was a cub back then in that team, like, and he's managed like that bit of, I suppose, experience, know-how of what's needed to be done and how you refocus for I suppose different teams and different styles of hurling. And I suppose that's the intriguing part. And I know I'm in the same boat this weekend for Clare and for Corofin of Clare, and playing teams you don't know an awful lot about. Like, and okay, I'm sure we can see Kiladangan will see lots of videos of Clonlara and stuff, but it's different. It's different playing a team you don't have a hang up about because you've never played them before.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, can I just ask you, Eamon, about that team from 04-05 that won the All-Ireland Junior title? I actually regularly play soccer with Gerard Slattery up here in Dublin. Yeah. And he actually played a small bit of hurling with me for the Coola Juniors this year as well. What was that run like? Does that stand out in particular? It's a long time ago now, but, obviously brilliant time.
Yes, first of all, it's frightening when you think about the term. It's nearly 20 years, it's frightening. Think how fast it went. I remember actually after we won the county final, and it was all new to us. It was the first intermediate club campaign, so I think the first night we said we could better go back training. I think maybe a half dozen turned up. All right, so we're either going to go at it properly or forget about it altogether. And in fairness, the lads embraced it. Like, I'd say we were underdogs in 4 of all them games. We had St. Catherine's from Cork, came up with a huge reputation. Tanina. We had an unbelievable battle with Kiladangan afterwards, and Drummond and Laka, who he could be facing yet. Shane were in the Munster final, and then we with St. Thomas's, we weren't supposed to be given a chance, and we beat them below on Bor, and the same thing with Carrick Shock in the final. And like I'm saying is, if you embrace it and hurl with freedom, I think, is the biggest thing here. And what you said a while ago there about there's no familiarity. You know what I mean? You're playing a top class team, but if you're playing Thurles, you're playing Tumivara, they know every player inside out. You know, like I know probably Clonlara had a good look at the county final last Sunday. You know, but you don't learn as much as if you would when you're playing a team on a regular basis. So I just think if the lads hurl a bit of freedom, put in a bit of a commitment now. You know, embrace it, because we thought we'd never experienced anything like when we won the county final back in 2004. We were a long time knocking there, and it took us to a place that to this day is refreshing to even think about it, you know. So I think the lads, I listened to them for the last couple of days, they're looking forward to this, and which is great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know they were looking at this. Is actually just a little rub at Shane. There was a few of them asking for you, Shane, on Sunday. She said the Thurles were well set up for a run at Munster, so I'd say you were safe enough not going to Semple Stadium last Sunday. You would have got a few barbs, so you would have.
Yeah, look, that happens now and again. And that's because, like, I'd be happy enough to put the neck on the block. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And you know what? They're the sort of team that's really sort of showing me how much more quality they had than I thought. And to me now, they look like a team that can go and have a good Munster run. And rather than me having sour grapes for getting it wrong, I hope they continue to prove me wrong. And I hope they have a right good burst in Munster, because Tipperary needs it.
It does, yeah. But I think Clonlara will be looking at this as well. I think they're both at a similar stage that up to this year, I think if you looked at Clonlara and Kiladangan, you would have said one county title for all the talent and all the hurling they've done the last 10 or 15 years wasn't enough. So both of them now have the second one. And now both of them, one of them is going to get a chance to play in a Munster club final, probably against either Napirsheag or Ballygunner. Like, I'm not, and like, look, you have a puncher's chance then. Like, if like Ballygunner are going to lose at some stage, I'd say Loughlin Gales last weekend had a chance, but there's always that one game where maybe you just get it into a dogfight and you do what Paddy Teagan did to get them over the line, and suddenly Ballyhale are gone.
I might just run through a few comments here, and then I'll throw it back to you, to the two of you lads. So River Power says, Pádraig Maher put a lot of shape, work rate and teamwork into Thurles. Very little goal threat, though. That's something they need to work on. A lot of Thurles' time was taken up at the Premier Intermediate, obviously the 2 games against G. Shane. They didn't just have the same amount of time to analyse and drill a new game plan. That was in effect Thurles' 4th final in a few weeks. Not sure how much I'd agree with that. No, I don't think I would. The big thing I saw about Kiladangan, says Richard Hogan, was the fact that they attack the ball, they can work on the shooting and make better decisions. Clonlara is a 50-50 game, but with home advantage, it should help. And also adds, would go under the radar into a Munster final and have nothing to lose. Paddy Creedon's one-handed point was superb in the second half. Yeah, that was the first point.
I'm not sure home advantage for Kiladangan to be huge. Like, was like if John Conlon, the Galvins, they all know Semple Stadium like they're back of their hand. I wonder would Kiladangan have been tempted to maybe prefer to bring it to McDonough Park or somewhere where Clonlara wouldn't be used to, but or a lot of their players wouldn't be used to, but no, just to veer back to Thurles for a second. Like, look, you think a couple of weeks ago Thurles were on a high. They were within a couple of minutes of being senior and Premier Intermediate champions, and now they've lost both games after a replay, 1 point each. Like, just the fine margins of it all. Like, and look, Pádraig Maher's had a brilliant first year with them, and look, they just come up short, but they're not far away. But look, they'll look back at last weekend and think, look, 4 scores is not going to get enough, and like they really needed, like they're physically their forwards, or apart from Paddy Creedon, were blown out of it. Stephen Cahill didn't influence the game. They probably, to win that game, they needed Billy McCarthy to have a big game, even under the dropping ball. And I suppose when he was taken off, that was a problem for him as well. Like David Sweeney, that I'd say he's an awful player to have to. When you're marked by him, like when he's on it, like you just don't get away. But I just want to remark on Dara Stakelam's 2 points he got in the second half. Like, there were one, I don't think he scored from about 6, and he had no backswing. And the second one, he didn't even look where the posts were when he shot. He just knew by the angles. Like, this guy, I can't wait to see him play for Tip. I just think he's, Jesus, I'm shocked if he's not been called in. He has to be, but he's definitely a player with a massive future ahead of him.
Yeah, like if I'm to sort of pitch Thurles' case here a little bit, early on in the game, Ronan Maher was under, I think, one of Thurles' puck outs, and Andy Leclan jumped straight into him. And you're supposed to be facing the ball when you're challenging for it. Look, He's a good player, all that kind of stuff, all the positives. But we have to say, should have got at least a yellow card for that. But he connected fairly hard with Conor Stapleton. And I don't know, did he clip his head and was Conor Stapleton ever fully right after that? And then not so long later, Stephen Maher was coming out with a ball and Andy Lecnan chopped across him. Were Kiladangan a little fortunate there, Eamon?
I think you're really showing your colours now, Shane. You're grasping at straws, I think. I can tell you the truth, right? Okay.
Well, they're 2 yellow card tackles at least.
Well, Andy Lecnan was booked for that.
You know, but as in they were both yellow card tackles.
That's energy. Andy has that energy, and he goes right to the line, and he just gets in. Like, he did so many good things. I think, I wouldn't be highlighting them 2 incidents. Yeah. The one with Rowan.
Obviously, if there's something that could have been a red card, we're going to have to talk about it. Like, and that was 2 yellows in the space of 20 minutes. Should have been, I would have said. Now, excellent player, Kiladangan deserved their win, but we can't ignore that.
I certainly hope, Shane, you don't take up the refereeing side of things, is what I can say now, right? Okay, for me now, I didn't think. Listen, okay, it was a harsh tackle because he was faced the wrong way around, but there was no intent in it. Like,
no,
he just jumped up to try to break a ball, and he clipped. You know what I'm saying? But it wasn't a big heavy tackle, or I don't think it would have been.
I think the only
player in the head. Jumping into it.
I know, like I think there has to be an allowance made if you're making a fair attempt for the ball, or even.
But then you face the ball. You have to face the ball if you're making a fair attempt. And instead, he jumped the wrong way into a lad's head.
He was trying to flick it back. You know?
Yeah, which he wasn't even facing the ball.
Yeah. I think the only contentious decision probably was the free Sean Hayes got near the end, where it looked like Ronan Maher hit him a fair. It looked like he made him strong, and you can, like, Turles weren't happy with that. You can see why the free was given, probably for the line of sight. John McCormack probably thought it was a little high, but other than that, I thought John McCormack had a fine game at the weekend. Why did Sean Hayes get a free after about 3 or 4 minutes for Paul Maher hooking him? I can't remember that. Sure, look, those things can happen. Like, they're. But we've come up with 3 things there. If Turles want to be sour, Eamon, I'm not trying to take away from Kiladangan, but you have to look at these incidents and say there's a couple of things that went against Turles as well.
I suppose if we were all going to go scrutinising the referee, it was an unbelievable game, and I think the referee contributed to that. And I don't think it's fair to be talking about the referee here today, because, like, if the referee did a bad job on that, that's the first thing we'd be all grasping at. Yeah. Like, in the last couple of days, I spoke to a lot of people. You're the first one I've heard talking about that change. You know what I mean? And they are minor incidents, but they weren't a major incident, is what I see. Well, there are 2 points that could have been the other direction and a potential red card as well. Like, I don't think you can ignore these things. I actually can't believe that both of you would just try and dismiss these things. But anyway, I'm not taking away from Kiladangan. They're just match incidents, Shane. Like, they can go for you one day and against you the other. Like, so. Yeah, we all know that, but, like, still and all. Okay, so those, what I suppose the comments then afterwards from Alan Flynn, he felt that, you know, the quality of some of these players from previous years, like Willie Connors gave one of the most epic performances we've seen in a long time, Eamon. Like, that was sensational stuff. Sean Hayes, the way he takes lads on, absolutely brilliant. But Alan Flynn felt that, you know, the Kiladangan lads were kind of thrown under the bus, is the way he put it, the way they weren't called back with Tipperary, and, you know, obviously Barry Hogan was, but just so many. Like, do you think it was heat of the moment sort of stuff, or do you think, you know, it's fair enough, he's waited for the right time to say it? You know what, it obviously shows that it meant something to the lads, you know, and maybe they use that to motivate them. I said, I haven't been involved with them on a one-on-one basis, so I can't comment whether that was a driving force for them. Personally, I think some of them guys should have been in there. Like, Alan had been on the panel for 6 years, had hurled championship the previous year, didn't even get a phone call to say he wasn't going back in. You know what I mean? None of the lads did, and I think that's probably something that, you know, if somebody has given a bit of service, Liam has made his decision, and I'm not questioning Liam's ability. He's a proven track record, but the lads felt maybe that they had something to offer, and they didn't get a shot at it. And, you know, listen, if that one was the county final, we'll take it all day, you know. Yeah, look, I'd have no doubt that I would have heard probably even early in the summer that there was a disappointment and a little bit rawness over, I suppose, what happened. Like, you have a team like that, and then I suppose you have
I suppose if we break it down, like you had only 2 players in the panel this year, James Quigley, and that he was let go after the league. Probably we didn't see an awful lot of him. And then Barry Hogan, who started the championship, and then we always thought harshly maybe dropped after the Cork game, but look, then it had worked out. Liam was fully justified in his decision. Was Rhys Shelley come in and it did pretty well. Like, so you couldn't argue with what Liam said there. But then I thought the decision not to recall Alan Flynn last year, or not to keep him on, like he was. I always thought he's a Liam Cahill type player. He was there for 5 or 6 years, and he struggled to nail down a starting spot a lot of times. But he was always, if you needed a guy to do a job from 2 to 9, maybe off the bench, a good squad player, he was your man. And I think Alan was happy with that. And he was. I know a lot of people are saying that why is Alan, he was never a regular, but you don't have to be a regular to be an important part of a squad. Like, you look back to how many times did Alan come on in 2019 in that run to the All-Ireland. He came on in the second half of games and really steadied the ship. Like it, and like I just think, and he's a fabulous leader for Kiladangan. He's the ideal reason why he's captain. Like he exudes leadership, and like I would have spoken to Alan. I did a separate interview with Alan on Sunday, so I wasn't part of that interview where he spoke about Liam Cahill, but I spoke to Alan after the semi-final, and I said, look, if the call comes again, I said, were you disappointed you were let go? And he said he was, and I said, if the call comes again, would you go in? And he more or less said he would. Now it's interesting to see what happens now. Like the over to Liam Cahill now. I think he's good enough. Okay, the age 29. Look, it's not old. But Liam Cahill might think I'm going to go with younger guys, and if he does, that's his prerogative. He might say he's moved on, but I'm always brought back to what Lynn Gaynor said to me about Liam Cahill in the book I did. He said, Lynn Gaynor said about he took to Liam Cahill, said, I love street fighters. And I look at Alan Flynn, he's a street fighter. What do you need in inter-county hurling? You need a bit of a street fighter out there, whether it's starting or off the bench. So look, but then if you balance it out, who of the Kiladangan team could have been in there? Like, I think Paul Flynn has had a couple of goals. I don't think he's inter-county, but he's probably one of those brilliant club hurlers that maybe inter-counties maybe slightly beyond. And Willie Connors had been injured for the last 2 years. That's why he wasn't in there. I think he'd be in there anyway. Billy Seymour and Sean Hayes had potential. I think they'll be in there next year. Like they probably hadn't kicked on from underage level, and we were waiting for them to have big club campaigns. They've had them now. They have got to be in there next year. So I can see where Alan was coming from, and I'm sure that thing with Liam Cahill, I'd say it was as much personal as it was a club thing, but I'm just fascinated to see how it works out from here. Like, I'm sure Liam Cahill, it's an interesting conundrum now. He's going to bring them in, but will these words stick in the back of their minds? Will it put extra pressure on the Kiladangan lads who are in with Tip next year, that a lot of supporters will be looking at them and thinking, Jesus, it might work for and against them. Who knows?
Eamon, like as a guy who's managed a few counties, Limerick, Laois, Offaly, Kerry, like, is it one of those things where, we have a comment here saying that Liam Cahill said the panel was disbanded early last summer, so that was obviously the end of Colin Bonner's tenure. Like, do you feel that you have to go? Do you have to go around and ring all players that like you take up a new panel? Do you go and ring lads who aren't going to be involved for the previous years, or how does it generally operate?
For me, I think I would be a big supporter of Liam Cahill's. I think his record is second to none what he's done in underage. I think it was an easy way out not to ring the lads. For fellas that have been on the panel for a number of years, like, right? It's easy to just say, listen, hang on, you're not in my plans. We'll be watching with the club, and if things change, we'll bring you back in. It's a quite simple phone call, But, to have to read it off the paper that you're not on the panel after giving 6 years, it's disappointing. And as I said before, if that was the driving force to get the lads across the line, we take it now. You know what I mean? But I'm only giving an opinion. But listen, I'm not for a second question and Liam. I'm just saying I'm just trying to look at a balanced view on this thing, and I think it might have been taken out of context. And I'm sure it was for in Alan's situation, it was a release and a hurt that it actually, and I just proved it did mean something to him. Like, he has been our most consistent hurler. If you look at Kiladangan, since we've come through and started competing in the last 5 or 6 years, Alan has a very, very seldom ever had a bad game, right? He really leads from the front. And I think, you know what? I think at this stage, it's probably time to park it and, and see where it goes, because I'd hate for this thing to be a Kiladangan versus Liam Cahill, because that's not what it is at all.
No.
You know what I mean?
Like, I just think it's like, if I was just saying, if we had a manager and I was getting those comments, I'd be sort of thinking, okay, while he's having a go, Jesus, I love the fact that there's a bit of fire in this guy. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe he still has something to offer, and I'd be fascinated to see what happens from here. Like, it'd be the easy thing to say. And look, Liam might have made a decision, say, I'm going to go with younger lads. Fine, 29 is not that old, but I think you would, if he's in his, if Alan, I think Alan's form is fully justified a recall, or at least a trial, or whatever way Liam is going to put his panel together. It'd be interesting to see if it happens.
Yeah, like Eamon, I presume you feel that there one or two of them should be on it. Like, I presume you expect Willie Connors to be straight back in there, and like, we've seen him play a number of positions now. As a county player, where would you see him playing if he was involved next year with Tip?
Just before Eamon answers that, I would think, I'd say whenever Kiladangan finishes, Willie's probably going to be going under the knife again. I'd say that good ankle he's injured now they've got him through the last few weeks, and they'll get him through the next while. But I'd have my doubts that he won't need an operation before next year.
Yeah, Eamon, maybe you know more about that.
Yeah, I think he was only, they were minding him, and he wasn't training fully up to even to the Drawn County final. He got through that, and I suppose they took a chance to see how long they could get out in the last day, and he was probably the difference. Like, we were a different team, particularly in that stage there in the first half where we were under pressure. I thought he was outstanding. Has he something to offer at the county level? Definitely. Like, because he's so versatile. You could probably play Willie in any of the outfield positions from them. Like, he played football at cornerback for Tipperary, and he's capable of going back there or hurling, I think he's very, very versatile, Will he go back in? I don't know. He's probably going to sort out his injury and to see where that goes. I think Billy and Sean Hayes have something to offer, right? For me, Barry, I thought was one of the unlucky ones last year with the cause for making the goals. He didn't do an awful lot wrong, because like as if there was waiting for a mistake to happen. And I think Reece Shelley's a top class keeper, and we're fortunate to have two guys of that caliber, Dickie McGrath, for me, has best pair of feet.
I forgot to mention Declan, yeah.
How old is he, Eamon?
Dickie's 24.
Okay, good age.
Yeah, he's a great, like, he has the best feet, and you can see his hands are incredible. Like, he can get off a ball there at the passes, and he's very, very intelligent. I think for me, they're the fellas. If I could knock 10 years off of Joe Gallagher and reinvent him, you'd love to have him in there. He's been the heartbeat for us, but that's not going to happen. Like I said, James would be an incredible guy in the panel. James trains so hard, and Liam knows that he had him in there. You know what I mean? Yeah. But whether he goes back there again, I don't know. But certainly, I think Dickie, Sean, and Billy have something to offer. And I'm not sure if Alan or Paul got the call at this stage, what would happen. We've discussed him. We've discussed Alan already, and Paul certainly has loads to offer. But he's a busy man now. He's taken over. Yeah. He's milking cows, and whether he had the time to give it, I'm not sure.
Okay, well then, look, just the run to Munster now. How do you feel the team is set up for it, injury wise? Just the fact that they have the couple of weeks as well, so they can enjoy this and then build up to it again. Do you feel they're in a good spot now, Em?
I do. I honestly do. Yeah. I think having that kind of a 3 week. I'd hate to be playing a match next weekend for what is off in the next 2 days. But that's no harm. That's great. And that's great. So it's like to be up in the village there in McGrath's and see the enjoyment in people's faces. I know Shane probably had it the previous weekend, and that's what it's all about. And I think they should enjoy this, because I was just so fearful looking at this bunch over the last couple of years. Are we just going to be a team that won one county championship? And I think we were capable of winning one or two more, and at least that's the monkey off the back now. And I think they should go on and embrace Munster and have a cut at it. And I think that I wouldn't underestimate how far they could go in this thing. Like, Borsley got a fantastic run a few years ago. They came in as underdogs as well, and got a fantastic campaign, and so that's something that you should take comfort from and go on and have a right cut.
Yeah, Shane, I would say there's very little that Kiladangan don't have to have a right good run here. They've athleticism all over the field. They've got hurlers. They've got battlers. Like, whatever about the analysis and the ups and downs and talking about what hurlers could have had this and had that, I think Kiladangan are a brilliant team and as good a chance as Tipperary have a team to go deep into the championship as we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, I'd say the only maybe area they're would be short against the Piercing or a Ballygunner is probably their bench, but Borsley got to an All-Ireland club final practically with 16 players. Like if Kiladangan can keep that core, maybe 15, 16, 17 guys fit, like they have a great chance against Clonlara. And then look what Borsley did on that day and against Ballygunner. Like they just got in their faces. They made they put a game plan together that stifled that Ballygunner and they won the game like so. And look, we have to see what Ballygunner are like this weekend. Like they've managed the big long gap so far between the Waterford County final and the first round, but like they got Killer One just weren't able. They provided no opposition last year, just a week after they won a replay. Like they were in no fit state and with injuries and then celebrations. Like I think Sarsfields are going to give them a right good game this weekend. Like I think if there's a chance that Ballygunner could go out, it's next Sunday.
Eamon, you know the club scene inside out. How do you see this the other teams in Munster going? Like, who are your runners and riders?
The same as Shane. I think Sarsfields have a great chance. Do you know what I mean? They're just out of. I think they have a home venue. It's in Cork, isn't it?
What's in Waterford?
It's in Waterford, is it? Sorry.
Yeah.
I think they're just out of the campaign. I don't know how Ballygunner can do it. It's like having 2 pre-seasons, obviously, for them every year. You know, like how many weeks is it since they won their county final? I'm not sure, but you know how they can keep that going. Listen, they have massive experience. You know, having seen the Piercing up close last week, they're going to be a handful for anybody. If they hurled the way they hurled last week, they bought massive intensity and they have hurlers all over the field. Like their forwards there, like we were saying the last day going in against them, if we could hold Peter Casey and Adrian Breen, like we held them to 1-2 between them, but the other guys popping up everywhere. Like they have a new guy in there, JJ Carey, that David Dempsey is a fantastic club hurler. You know what I mean? So and if we go through it, I could name out the whole team for you right back along. Will O'Donoghue is back in the fold. They're going to have a huge say in this thing as well. But if my back was to the wall, I was wrong. I thought if the game was in Cork, I was going to tip Sarsfields. Given it's in Waterford, I'd probably say Ballygunner will come through, and I think you'll have a huge semi-final with the Piercing at that stage.
We had I had a chat. I can't remember was it on this show or my show, Shane, but we had Owen Breslan on last year, and he's talking about the quality and depth in the Limerick Championship, and that was in the intermediate. Obviously, Moan League got promoted. What's the general quality player per player across the board in Limerick now compared with Tipperary? Eamon, you'd know both counties incredibly well.
Yeah, I suppose for me, how I could describe it is, if you're going to tip club matches, there's some great games, and you'd often say, who else should be in there with Tipperary, right? Okay, you'll say, who is the standout? You might pick out a few here and there, but my God, is the list very long in Limerick. Like, you know what I mean? You go along there and you're playing teams, and you know the fellas that are on the panels of that Limerick squad maybe back down, and they mightn't necessarily getting game time. You know, like Colin Coughlin, Alan O'Connor, there with Barry Brown.
Remember last year, Moan Lean, that their centre forward, you're thinking, God, he'd be nailed on to get in. He didn't get Donegal. All he got in, and he started a few league matches. I don't think he was seen after that.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and so there's a huge, there's a massive of talent in Limerick is probably higher than it is in Tipperary, and the physical development of them are incredible because they've all been on development squads since they're under 13. So their hurling is quite good, but they're physically developed. Probably a little bit ahead of us as a county, right? I know we have some individuals definitely that would match up any of them, but you're going along there, say like Shane O'Brien, the young fella there from Kilmallock, Oisin O'Reilly, right? They're just like they're athletes, you know. So like there's a lot of hurlers around the place, and I think like John Kiley has a lot of riches at his disposal.
Yeah. Like I saw most of the final on Saturday, and like I suppose compared to Sunday's game, it was a harder watch. Like it wasn't free flowing. Like was that a once-off, or is that the type of style of hurling that it is in Limerick? Is it completely different to what maybe we'd be used to in Tip?
Yeah, it's very physical, right? The referees don't blow it up as much, right? Okay, you don't get likes of, I see Aaron Gillan there. He was absolutely incredible the whole championship, marked him, maybe double marked him. He did his medial ligament there in the first 5 minutes of the game, and that was kind of our main threat up front. And I say he's going to be on the sidelines for a while. But I think that's the way Limerick play even in their own training games. Is they're hugely physical in what they do, and the referees let it off. And I'm not saying referees are wrong, because it's consistent for both teams. Like I could say, like, we played on the edge a few times there last Saturday, but both teams do that, and referees let it off. And I think that's probably what stands to them then when they come together as a county team.
Like, would you have found it hard, like, when you took over that team? Like, I'm sure you had your own ideas of what to do, but then you're going into a lot of these clubs, and they're probably all filtering down the same information from the Limerick setup and trying to play that style of hurling. Like, would you have had to change your approach in terms of how, like, instead of, I wouldn't say entertaining hurling, but what you'd be used to, quick ball and maybe taking a few more risks. There definitely seems to be less risk with possession in Limerick. You really can't waste the ball in terms of what Limerick do at all levels.
Actually, to be fair, there was no pressure on us to play any particular way. We varied our game and everyone we played, and it probably caught us a bit in the final. We set up against Kilmallock, who had beaten us in the round robin. They had 6 marquee forwards, so we put Diarmid as a sweeper. We had free rein to do that, to be honest. There was no pressure. What they do want, to be honest, like the players, there's no point in pounding your chest and hitting the crest and go out and do it for your club lads, right? That doesn't work with them. They want a game plan. They want a professional setup. But they really buy into it, and whereas it worked for us in the semi-final, to be fair, Napier had their homework done then, and it didn't work for us in the final, and we were trying to counteract it. We were chasing the game. So to answer your question, Shane, like, all I'd say here is these fellas want a very organised setup, right? I'm saying, but the response that we got, or like I said, I got from particularly the 3 lads that came back from Limerick, right, was unbelievable. What I'm saying is, there's no I'm tired or I'm doing this and that. Remember the first night, I think we put him in only a couple of nights after the All-Ireland. The lads came along in their clothes, and Cian Lynch made a beeline for me. He says, is there anything we can do to help you here? How are things? Is everything going okay? They really love their clubs. And that's probably the same across all the players, but like, you wouldn't think that you see Mike Casey and Aaron Gillan going out the other day. They're probably sitting down having a pint now in Sandy Lane today. You know what I mean? So but they just go at it hard. They expect a professional setup, but they really, really embrace the club.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you then, like, that's great to hear that those lads love their club. What, Jason Glandon, is he good enough to be involved with the county? I think he's been involved before, might even have an All-Ireland as part of the Limerick panel. But some of the saves he pulled off the other day, and he's a great ball striker too.
Yeah, he's a serious keeper, right? And if there is, for me, I know Nicky Quaid is a special talent, but he has to be in the waiting there. What he said to me was, he's a very good player out the field, and I was muting him about would he look at going out the field, and he said no way. That when he was dropped from the Limerick panel 2 years ago, he was told that he was actually playing out the field with Patrick at the time. That reason being that he wanted to, he wasn't playing regularly in the goals for his club. So there was no way I was going to get him out anyway, and his focus is to try to get back in there. And I really, really hope that John Kiley gives him the call, because he's a very, very good keeper.
Is Aaron Gillan the best forward in the country, do you think?
Yes, a few friends of mine were talking about her last week. I would say 2 things. Aaron Gillan is the best athlete that I have had the luxury of managing. Right? He's just ferocious, and he trains so hard. He drives lads on, like I was saying to him one night in training, we need, it was a little bit soft. And next thing I turned around, himself in the corner back, or rolling behind the goals at the far end of the field. Like, he just, whatever it takes for the club to do this thing, he's a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal. Probably definitely one of the best. But Cian Lynch, I've gone on record as saying probably the best player I've ever managed, because he's just, you can see what he can do in patches of it intercounty. You see him up close, the things he does in training, but he's just such a giving fella in terms of his time to, he wants to go with the weakest hurler. I'm going to take him tonight, see can I do something to bring him on. Anybody that needs anything done in terms of help, in terms of, listen, would you talk to this person? He's the man. He's unbelievable.
And I know you have to go there, Eamon, but just a final question before you do go. Just to not put Shane on the spot fully about Lorrha this weekend, they're going to be bringing Corofin of Clare to Nina in the Munster Intermediate Championship. Would you have any thoughts or insights on how that might go?
Yeah, I've watched Lorrha, and actually, I remember texting Ken Hogan last year, right? Okay, and I texted him after the match, and I said, "You're actually good enough to go on and win the Premier Intermediate next year." Like, I think they're what Lorrha have done in terms of they got relegated, and a lot of teams could sit back and say, "Okay, that's unfortunate," but they went harder. They got a very good setup in place, right? They have hurlers all over the field, helping out Owen a small bit in the background with Mona Leen last year and seeing what's ahead in that competition. It will take a great team to beat Lorrha, right? And I think it's fantastic to see them back at the top table. Like, they're the most passionate supporters, and they have the hurlers there at the minute. So I think, to answer your question, I think their low is good enough, right? And I think it's only about them not overanalyzing the occasion and just go at it. You know what I mean? And like, they're back in Nina, so you might as well be playing them below in Lorrha for all the games that they've played in Nina at this stage this year, which is fantastic, and I'm sure they'll bring huge support, and I hope all of North Tipperary get behind them now as well and push them across the line.
I think there's a fair symmetry with ourselves, and I suppose Eamon on the Kiladangan, like, because we were when Eamon was over underage teams, we were sort of rivals, and I still go back to 2004, which is 19 years ago. Lorrha and Kiladangan played a North Under 14A final in Cloughjordan. Ended 5 points apiece. It was one of the best games of hurling I was ever at. It was like a Joe Gallagher, Fergal Hayes, Bonner Maher. There was some of my great memories from being young, and we were great rivals. Kiladangan were able to kick on to senior. We probably didn't have the depth of underage talent coming through to stay pace with them, but like I'd be looking forward to get a crack at them now at senior level now next year.
Yeah, well, look, Eamon, you've been brilliant with your time. Congratulations on the win. Full value for it. So hopefully Kiladangan have a very good Munster campaign. Thanks a lot for joining us.
No bother. Thanks, Dad.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, I just wonder sometimes does it come across as if I'm not giving Kiladangan the credit. Like, I think they're absolutely brilliant.
I think maybe it's just the refereeing side of things. Maybe no,
but like, why?
No,
decisions.
Yeah, hand on heart, to be honest, like the only refereeing decision I thought was iffy last weekend was the free against Rona Maher when it was 116 to 16 points that Sean Hayes. It just looked like a good, strong challenge, and Sean just wasn't prepared for it. Hit the ground, and he got the free for it. I don't know whether he was looking for it or not, but he got it. Look, you'll always have decisions both sides in any game. I hand on heart, I don't believe that there was any sort of red card offence during the game. I can't remember one anyway. So
well, no, I'm just saying 2 yellows. But anyway, look, I'm not saying, like, obviously if you got yellow for the first, you might have been more careful for the second. I'm just saying these things, I do feel that up. So you're up against Corofin of Clare this weekend. They beat 6 Mile Bridge in their final as well. 6 Mile Bridge's second team. But can you talk to us about some of the players? I think their captain is Damien O'Loughlin. Jamie Malone plays for them as well. So they have plenty of quality, even if people in Tipperary don't know that much about them.
No, look, I would have watched their county final, I suppose they were a lot like ourselves. There was a bit of pressure because you're playing a club second team and you're expected to go up. And 6 Mile Bridge had a lot of chances in the game, but Corofin were definitely more. They took more of their chances. Like, there's some fine hurlers, like the Cahill brothers. I assume they're maybe the son of the manager. I think some midfield and centre forward. They've a couple of very tasty corner forwards as well. They've Cormac Lean wing back. I think he's their only representative on the care panel. A big physical guy that can hurl as well. So look, we know their pedigree. Like, they would have won County A championships up along. Okay, they've been joined to Rouen, but I think the club of Robin Mounsey, but that's just you're still talking maybe half, maybe 2/3 of those guys well used to hurling. We know the standard is going to be pretty hot. I'm sure it didn't look the best Clare final, but I'm sure it was all about winning, and that they'll probably play a lot like ourselves. It was probably an arm wrestle of a drawn game and a replay with hurlers, but both teams will probably hurl a little freer this weekend because I'm not going to use the word bonus territory, but like there's definitely there's an opportunity there. Corofin were in the Munster Intermediate Football Championship a couple of years ago, so they know what they're going into. We were in it back in 2007. We actually lost to Clonlara in the Munster semi-final. Like, so you look where Clonlara have ended up now playing Kiladangan. So we'd like to at least maybe try and get through the first round and say we won a game in Munster. We're representing Tipperary. The lads have got back to training last weekend. A few of the under-21s played last weekend. I think we had 3 starters and 5 guys. I suppose it's good to see that we're happy that for that game to go ahead for a couple of fringe players that got game time into their legs as well, which would be where we can probably I suppose have the freedom to bring on subs. You know, when you're playing for county championships and you're really going for the win and it's all about the result, where maybe you could probably take a risk more maybe next weekend with guys coming in off the bench.
And of course, because the under-21 championships and all that have been gearing up, you probably had an opportunity to see some other younger lads and see what sort of form they're in as well, without naming young lads' names.
But like I'm sure it's just for when you were with Coola, it's always interesting now to have an interest in what other counties are doing. Like keeping an eye on the Limerick final last weekend. Look, I didn't watch it or anything. We will watch them if we get through this weekend. But like Turin and Mayo winning against Four Roads, I think, on Monday, and then Thomastown and how is it the Galway final? I can't remember who's the Tina Denari or Ballinderreen won.
Ballinderreen won.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure how that went. So like you're keeping an eye on all those championships to see who's come, just in case you end up beating them down the line. Like so.
Do you know, actually, I think you were talking to John O'Mara, manager of Kiladangan, after the game, and he was saying that one of the days that really highlighted, I suppose, where Kiladangan could go was against Borris-Lee in the north. I'm trying to remember, were they down to 13 men that day? I know Borris-Lee got someone sent off late on as well, but was it something like the last 6 points in a row Kiladangan scored that day? And that showed some serious heart in that team.
Oh, yeah. Like, if there's something that John O'Mara said afterwards, like they had been tested all year. Like, that Borris-Lee match, 13 men, last 6 points. They lost the North final, but they were seriously depleted that day, losing the match against Borris-Lee. But it was a point John made, is that from the second half of that match onwards, they've been terrific. Like, I know they had a wobble against Holy Cross. Look, Holy Cross are a coming team. Like, they've been terrific. And no, look, you can't say the word worthy champions. Like they brought their best in the replay, and that was good enough. Just to come back on that comment from River Power, like there's nothing. Brian Hogan went travelling at the end of last year. He wasn't dropped off the tip panel. He went travelling, so that was the reason why he wasn't on the tip panel. And he's gone back to Australia, so we won't have him this Sunday.
Yeah, River Power likes to have a cut now and again. He says, I did note that tackle on Stapleton too. He jumped into him, took a good belt to the head and knee, just referring to that early challenge in the game. Another actual thing about Thurles as well, Paddy Maher's had a brilliant first season, as you said. Could have won both county finals at Premier Intermediate and Senior. But I would have heard a small bit of crowing about maybe not changing things up enough. That maybe they did bring Dara Stakelum out the field, but could they have done something in terms of trying to win? Like, Kiladangan owned the ball around the middle of the field, I would have said, and like brilliantly so. But could they have put Billy McCarthy in full forward for a while? Now, maybe they did for a little short period. Could they have overloaded the middle with some, physical players? Were there different things they could have tried, or is it just easy to be wise after the event?
Well, they actually did, because like the first half of the match, like we were all saying in the build-up, Ronan Maher, he's going to be sweeper, and probably Willie Connors the other side. Then you look at, after 2 minutes, it's man-on-man hurling. But then you go at the start of the second half, Ronan's back sweeping, and Thurles changed things up. I'm sure they were probably worried, even though they were ahead at half-time, they were probably worried we're giving away way too many scoring chances here. And I suppose initially it didn't work, because Kiladangan, after Paddy Creedon's brilliant point started, Kiladangan got 4 or 5 points in a row to go 2 points up. So like that tactical shift didn't work, but for a period after that it did. Like, was Kiladangan weren't able to win a ball in their half forward line, and Thurles were able to have that platform to pick out the likes of Aidan McCormick with a massive second half and Dara Stakelum. I did think, look, I know Thurles will always trust their panel and like their 5 adult teams, but I did think it was a big call taking Stephen Cahill off. While he wasn't influencing the game, he's still a player that can pull a point or two out of nowhere. And like you think Dara Stakelum was quiet for the first 40 minutes, but yet he picked off a couple of points. Aidan McCormack, I think, got 3 or 4 points to play in the last 20 minutes of that game. So I did think, okay, while maybe I thought his subbing off was a bit strange, and then you're thinking we're not a team overloaded with physical forwards. Taking Billy McCarthy off, he had 2 quiet finals. Was a big call as well, but I think Thurles will always was. I suppose not being able to bring on Tommy Doyle, like he wasn't on the 30 that was named last weekend. Conor Lanigan only came in. Like Michael Cahill and Jack Lanigan getting injured in the Premier Intermediate final replay, I suppose that probably robbed them of maybe a couple of experienced guys to bring in too. Like that, they were definitely compromised with their hamstrings as well. So look. Fine margins, but look, if there was something to look positive from Thurles is that you look at 3 of the last 4 teams that have lost county finals have come back and won the next year. You had Kiladangan in 19 into 20, Lockmore 20 into 21, and there's Kiladangan this year. So Thurles would look at themselves now and think, God, out of all those, we were the ones who lost the final in 21 and didn't come back the following year. But look, I looked this. Thurles, I suppose Thurles have taken a big step forward this year. There's no doubt about it. And Pádraig Maher, his first year, will be a lot wiser and smarter manager for the experience this year. And like he'll be with them the whole year next year now that he stepped away from Tip. And they'll be very, very hard to stop next year. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think that period where there were something like, they were 116 to 15 ahead. And there was 11 minutes to go. Then all of a sudden, Kiladangan hit 4 points in a row all over the bar. And Thurles during that period had 3 wides in a row. David Corbett twice actually, and Ronan Maher once. And like I thought Corbett was really getting into the game. Just the shooting probably didn't happen for him. But not only did Kiladangan get those 4 points in a row, after a couple of wides, then they got another point, and then they got a goal. So they actually hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1-6 from 7 shots during that crucial period of the game. And I mean, to have that composure and accuracy and just to not panic at that stage of the game, you'd have to credit them. But the age profile of that Thurles team, and obviously Dennis Maher's around 30. I think Ronan Maher
had a super game last weekend. And just another guy who I think I'd be interested to see if he gets a call up. I'm not sure whether his lack of size might come against him, Paul Maher.
Yeah,
serious game of the week. I'm not sure, but God, I thought he's been. If I was, I know it's something I'm going to be doing probably tomorrow for next is team of the championship. He's nailed on for to be my number 2. I thought he had a brilliant campaign. Yeah, no, look, I hope we have a commentator who can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he might be more towards the mid to later stage of his 20s now. Maybe, you could be right. Like so, I think Dennis and Stephen Maher are probably. Dennis well in his 30s now, and I think Stephen could be too. Look, I definitely think if there's an area Thurles will look to develop more next year is a goal threat. They had one in the drawn match. Did they score a goal in the drawn match? No, they didn't. I don't think they even had a goal chance. I'm open to correction. Last weekend, Paddy Creedon's goal, I don't think they created another goal chance after that. So if there's something for them an area to go develop, it's probably that.
I would have thought that winning the ball around the middle of the field is the issue. If you've enough of that, they'll play
I'd say maybe another string to their bow, like then.
Yeah, but they do have I know Dennis Maher's like in his 30s now, but I'm sure he'll be there next year. He had a brilliant season and he should be there next year. Ronan Maher only just turned 28, which is mental when you think how long he's been on the scene. I'm not sure exactly how old Stephen Cahill is, but the age profile is absolutely brilliant for that team. This defeat this year could set them up next year, give them that bit of hurt, give them a cause for next year, and they'll be right in the mix again.
Lads, enjoy this Open Championship while this lasts. There's a couple of underage teams in Thurles Old, and if they stay coming the way they're coming, 6 or 7 years time, Thurles could be winning 4, 5, 6 in a row. Like they have the potential to do that if that group of young lads that I'm watching underage stays developing and comes through the way they are. Thurles won't be far away.
I see a question. Is Jack Lanigan senior material? Would he have the work rate for Maher's game plan? He scored, wasn't it something like 4 against
points
Peep?
Play
but he went off injured, didn't he?
Yeah. Like, but there's a bit of physical presence to him too, probably more than like. That's the thing. I'm sure Pádraig and his selectors will go away over the winter and think, okay, where were we short in certain areas of the field, and who do we need to work on in the league, maybe, and maybe is there somebody on the bench that we think will maybe start all 5 or 6 league games and maybe get them used to our setup.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, again, just the preview that's going to be in the Nina Guardian. People can get it now. It's out in all the shops locally. Well worth picking up this week. But in terms of how the game would be finished this weekend against Corofin for yourselves, extra time and penalties is always on the cards. After all your talk about hating penalties, it's going to happen to you, Shane.
But
penalties on Sunday.
But we haven't. I know people think, geez, what he asked. We actually haven't done anything, even though you say quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. We haven't really. We know who our strikers are when it comes to it, but we haven't really practiced them as such. Really, like, because I suppose I know people say if you more you practice, the better you'll get. But I don't know. Sometimes maybe you'd rather let lads be free going up to take a shot too. Like just it's for and against practicing, like, so hopefully it won't come to it and we'll get it done in the field of play.
Yeah. Any update on the new Tipperary football manager?
I see in today's paper it looks and I suppose it was the name I was hearing last week that Paul Kelly from he's a Kildare, Dublin. He's up in your neck of the woods, and he's the former Thomas Davis manager, former Naas manager. Bit of a colourful character, I believe. Like, he's had his run-ins with Naas officialdom and stuff and things like that. But look, that's not to say that what things he did with getting Thomas Davis to a senior football final in Dublin was a fair achievement, and getting Naas to dominate Kildare football. I'm sure he was in the early stages of. He put got them to win a couple of county championships, and now they're the dominant force there in Kildare football, and hopefully Leinster football and potentially Leinster football. So, and hurling as well. So, it looks like that he is the likely candidate, not ratified yet. But it looks like they're nearly ready to go. But look, they've got to get moving. Like, you're talking 24th of November is inter-county collective training officially starts. It's not to say there's a lot of them are back already, yeah, look, it'd be great just to have it done. Just fascinating to see how he, and it looks like a outside of maybe an established manager who would bring a bit of, I suppose, being a name, this guy probably looks like he has a bit of drive about him, a young up-and-coming manager, probably fresh ideas. Be fascinating to see how he maybe would, I would say, coax guys into the panel, because I suppose joining a tip football setup now is not what it was a couple of years ago when you were playing Division 2 football and being on a par with Corks and playing the Munster finals and stuff. I think he'll have, and these selectors will have a job of work now. Like, there is talent. I would have mentioned Grange Mokel having a couple of guys I would have seen last week who should be in with a tip squad that you probably need to sell to the likes of them, but maybe guys who are off that 2020 squad are still more than good enough to play senior in the county football, getting those guys maybe to commit once again.
Yeah, I'm sure you noted the comments from Dara O'Donovan. He said that the GAA split season is hurting both elite players and club players. So I suppose I'll flesh out a little bit of that piece that Michael Verney did with him. And he goes, for an inter-county player, the season actually never really ends. Everyone is on about the split season, and I think there's a lot of propaganda around it. Take TJ Reid, for example. He's played the whole 12 months, the last 2 years, with no real break. You see it with the Derry lads there, like Conor Glass. It's hurting the elite players, but it's hurting the club player as well. A lot of the conversation needs to be had between clubs, counties, and the GAA in general. I see it in our club. How do you motivate club players to stay training when they do go back? Do they go back in February? Do they go back in April? Should we just wait until the first week of May to go back if the championship doesn't start till the end of July? Is there a point in being down in the muck in the SH1T in February and March? Who's getting any benefit out of that? What do you make of that, first of all?
I think in terms of inter-county player, there's a valid argument there, and definitely probably Limerick are probably the extreme example in that they're getting to All-Ireland finals or semi-finals every year, and they're going straight to. They don't really get a sort of a break like some other counties. Maybe if you're an inter-county, you might get a week or two's break before you recommit with the club. You might be able to go for a summer holiday just to break it, just to after the inter-county finishes and before you focus on the club. Whereas the likes of Limerick, you look at the Tipperary guys, they're probably not going to get much of a downtime whenever their season finishes. Even for the likes of Donovan and Doon, okay, they finished about 2 weeks ago. Limerick will probably be back training, doing something probably in early January, I think, or early December. They'll probably, maybe the guys that are exited the championship early will have to be back. I do get that, but then you go to the club scene. It all depends on what's in each county. Like, speaking from a Lorrha point of view, we didn't actually return to training this year till about the 1st of March. It was about 2 weeks before the county league start. It was like there's no need anymore. Like, if your club championship doesn't start till July, there's no need for you to be back in January and February. Like, I think 1st of March, 2 weeks training before the county league starts is ideal, and use the county league then to as part of your build, as part of your training to get ready for championship. I'm
not sure if that'll work for you at senior level though, Shane. I don't think that's gonna be enough for senior level though.
Well, that's not to say we won't do something different. Like, we'll have to do some. We'll have to do a lot more maybe physical work in maybe February. But then you want to keep lads fresh and hungry too. There's no point in being back in January and the big match is not starting until July. I think
there's no point in being fresh for July if you're thin as a hern going out and getting buried off the ball by Thurles Sarsfields.
But what worked back in your time when the calendar was different is completely different now, I would say.
No, I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, it's different. Like, when you had to be training in January and February, even December in some cases for club matches in April, you don't have to. I think you can still do a lot of the physical work now in late February, early March, April to be ready for July, and training's a lot more enjoyable then.
Yeah, I think it depends as well whether you're a dual club or not, because, like, let's say you're not a dual club, you have that time to maybe do more physical work rather than playing a game every single week. For like, I would have seen that this year. There's like dual players who had almost 30 league games in the space of like 4 or 5 months. So it's absolutely crazy. But like, if you want to be ready to come up against inter-county physical players like Darragh O'Donovan, Will O'Donoghue, take any tip player you like as well. You can't have them training 9 or 10 months of the year and then you come out in the club match and hope to physically compete with them if you've only trained for 5 years. That's why you've got Limerick battering the hell out of the likes of Offaly, Laois, whoever. It's because collective training, those lads are together so much more. So we just end up with like massacres across the board. Anytime a club player comes up against a county player, he's just going to get absolutely buried. And it kind of happens anyway, but it would be so much worse.
Yeah.
So what's the solution? Like, that's fair enough saying it's not working for club players or county players, but what's the solution?
There is, like, I don't think there is. Like, it's not going to stay the way it is for Limerick. Like, there probably will be a time where Limerick ease off and there will be a sort of a gap where they can maybe get a bit of a midsummer break. But there's no look. I suppose in terms of it's the downside of success. And I know he brought up TJ Reid, but I don't think TJ Reid would change anything really. Like, it's like what he's done with Kilkenny and what he's done with Ballyhale. Would you really change it? Maybe, I don't know, if would Darragh O'Donovan feel this different if Doon were winning champiomships and the boy he'd have the buzz about it. I don't know. Like, so
one thing is, I think I like when Darragh O'Donovan speaks in the media. He calls it as he sees it. So I might not totally agree here, but I like that he's calling it.
And I know people will. He hasn't got an awful lot of support for what he said, but Jesus, I loved what Alan Flynn said. He spoke from the heart. You might agree with him, and you might not agree with him. But we don't have an awful lot of players in the modern game that say what and the way he said it. And look, he made valid points. He might have made invalid points. But just the rawness of it and the passion of it. And if my dream scenario is that he's called back in and you think, God, Liam Cahill, he might have been. Flynn might have been harder than Cahill, but Cahill was a bigger man to say, Jesus, maybe I got this lad wrong. Like, and just that would be, and I just think that makes Cahill stronger in a managerial sense, that he's bigger than somebody having a shot at him, that he was able to take the shot at him. Maybe this lad was right. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, look, I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that one pans out. Are there any, like, now that the county championship?
Well, just going back to, you think of a Lorrha situation, I'm sure we will have to do things differently next year because we're going up senior. There's no doubt about it.
And I'm not suggesting you don't know that. I'm not trying to tell you anything you don't know.
Yeah, but it's the day and age of a club. Doesn't matter if they're a good club or going back in January. That has got to be gone. Like,
it's not.
How can you change from January to June for a main competition that starts in July? I don't think you can do that.
Okay, well then what about this? Let's say you're a club that's out in early June, out of the championship group.
Yeah.
When exactly do the group stages end?
Well, no. In fairness, the earliest a club in Tip, and most club, I'd say, and most counties will be out of a championship is probably early September. If you don't get over a group stage.
Yeah, well, okay, when the group stages are over, then you've got teams that are playing for a month or 2 months longer than you. And if that goes over the space of 3 years, you keep not getting out of the group stages. All the other teams who are perennial challengers are playing for an extra month every year. Over the course of 5 years, they've had 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 months more collective training. Yeah. You need to train more to catch up with them. So the idea of it being gone, right or wrong, I mean, I'm not saying that you're not, in some ways right here. But teams will continue to go back in January because they'll need to catch up with each other. And then the other team will say, well, we're not going to let them steal a March. So,
it all depends on your situation. Like if you're a club at maybe at a low ebb and you get a manager in and you just want to create a siege mentality and get a good base of training, you probably will. But then it all depends. If our year finishes next Sunday and we have November, December, January, maybe where lads can recharge, and then we probably will have to go back earlier. But if we were going in hurling into January, you have to switch the engine off at some stage.
Oh yeah. But I love that we can get worked up about this because I think that's that we
I don't. It probably all depends on a club's individual situation. Like it worked for us not to go back till late February, early March this year because just lads were able to just create a bit of freshness, a bit of hunger. But that's not, I'm sure, going and look, there's no better man to know what's needed at senior hurling than Ken Hogan, like in terms of what will be needed. We know a lot more will be needed next year playing senior hurling.
Yeah, I'd have said that like in 2015, getting to the Leinster final with Coola, the extra maybe 2-3 months together based compared to previous years. That crowned the team, and everything that came after it wouldn't have happened without that. But anyway, look, it's a great debate. People get your comments in. Let us know what you think. Shane, the trial rules, we've seen them the last couple of weeks in the freshers. The puck out.
You had your say in one of the daily papers. That was it, the Examiner.
Times. No, Times, I had my spake. Gordon Manning of the Times. He came out to our fresher match.
I must go to one of them some evening and maybe in UL and see how it's going.
Yeah, so the puck out has to go past your own 45 before your own player can touch it. Opposition player could intercept it if they want. And then the other one is the hand pass rule. So it's either the switch hand pass or, brick flick it. Or
Can I just ask you on, I know there's a lot of frustration in Tip is that a lot of focus in that article last week tended to be on the puck outs, whereas a lot of the commentary in Tip is over the hand pass, and I suppose it's Conor O'Donovan has been really pushing it, but I know there's a lot of frustration in Tip over the hand pass. And strange enough, I thought last Sunday's county final there was very few instances of throw, and I thought there was a lot of clear hand passing in the game, like so. But I'm just wondering, are these two rule changes tied together, or just say it does look clearly that the puck out one it's not going to work because it's too easy to put that's not going to work because it's
whoever came up with that rule suggestion should not be involved in coming up with rules.
They never thought about what the only way you do that rule is if 6 players have to stand inside the 65 attacking players, but then
inside the 21
are going to stand on the 65 with the hurleys up, like so. Look, that's just one of those rules where you think well-intentioned, but they never thought about it properly in terms of the downsides. But then at the hand pass one,
do you know what?
I'm hearing generally that players are adapting. There are issues where they're forgetting, but it's leading to instances where there's fewer times players are taking the ball into contact because they know they can't hand pass the ball out of the hand it's in. Like they're getting rid of the ball before contact.
It's leading to, look, I'm not ready to totally dismiss this, but I don't think we should bring in something that's fundamentally going to change a lot of aspects of the game without seeing a proper trial of this. And a trial and fresher only is not the way to do this, because at weekends, these lads are going home and they're playing under 21 or whatever age group within their county championships. And then they're coming in during the week and they have to go and do these new rules. And you can see players like, so we played a challenge match last night in UCD, and it was against the Coola under 21s, and Coola were not playing the rules and we were playing the rules, because we're like, okay, we've got a quarter final in the Fresher League in a few weeks' time, so we need to work on it. And you can see players at times, they're about to hand pass it, and then they start to, they remember, and then they, so they end up making a mistake on the basis of that. So we don't know how smoothly players can transition the ball just yet, because it's so unnatural to them. And you're always going to get caught up in traffic now and again with a ball, and you've no legal way to transfer it now, because if this trailing arm is caught at all, how do you get rid of the ball? Like if you have two players in front of you, how do you legally now get rid of the ball? You can't. So it's too unnatural.
So you have to either use the break, you can't really take it into contact, or you use the break flick before the man comes. So
we're going to find that we're going to have situations now where players are going to be faced with two guys, and rather than taking them on and trying to do the rugby version of the offload, go into contact, take a man out and pop it on, you're going to find players are going to start running away from their own goal just so they can clear it over their heads. Like, I think it's good in some ways, so it's okay, but like, it's not going to stop.
No.
If the intention of this rule is to stop short play, and Conor O'Donovan was tweeting me and he mentioned, less short play, and like, but if the intention of it is to stop short play, it's not going to make a difference. Players are still going to play it short all the time. So that's not the rule to.
But there's nothing wrong with short play. Like, I think Kiladangan got a point in the second half, early in the second half last Sunday. I think it was four beautifully weighted hand passes from stick and hand passes up the field over the bar. Like, and I said, hand passing is an integral part of hurling now. The problem is how the hand pass is being abused. Like, I see Camogie have brought in a trial rule, and it's very simple. It's a clear striking action. Now, I know there's a couple of, particularly maybe Derek McGrath is one of these, the former Waterford managers, that they're doing it so quick. Let's make that illegal. It has to be clear. This thing of, it's a millimetre off the hand, that's not a clear striking action. It has to be a clear striking, or rolling it off the fingers. Like, that's not a clear.
Yeah.
That could be so, like, I think if you said clear striking action, I think everybody would understand that then.
Do you know, like in rugby, when you're like, let's say a player is tackled to the ground, and then there has to be like clear contact before you go down again. So like, it has to be a very
obvious,
definite attempt to throw it up and smack it. But if you're getting fouled and on the spin, let's say like someone's pulling out here. I remember like, this is 20 years ago, playing for the Burrs Juniors in the North semi-final against Ballyskinnock, I think. No, Knockshigowna. Yeah. And I was about 50 yards out, and a player was pulling me, and I tried to hand pass it off. And I was actually trying to hand pass it.
Yeah.
The referee gave a free the other way. Yeah. Whereas we would have had a free to level it.
But
there should be a bit of leeway when you're being fouled.
But wouldn't players adapt then if I don't get a clean hand pass away, they might do something different with the ball before it comes into contact, because he knows, well, if I can't get a clean pass away, I'm going to get penalised for what looks like a throw. I think that's the only way it's going to be. Because like, I think hand passing is a fundamental part of the modern, because it's quick. And it's a secure way. It's the throwing action is the problem.
Yeah. Like, I just think that they need to trial it. If they want to trial it, the real way to do it is do it in a full league campaign like they did before. Remember when the yellow card led to a player having to be substituted around 2009? Yeah. If you want to do it, so let's do it in the full glare of the media. Now, the trouble is you'll have every manager straight away dismissing it. That will happen.
like
The only way to bring it in is
I
sort
think
of
I think they're overcomplicating what needs to be tidied up. But you look at last Sunday, Joe Gallagher pulling down Dennis Maher. A yellow card and a 21-yard free was no penalty there. Like that should have been a penalty and a sin bin. Like Joe, under the current rules, Joe Gallagher was absolutely right to do what he did.
This way, was 30 yards out.
Yeah.
2 minutes to go.
Yeah.
The thing that I keep saying, these rugby tackles have to be penalties.
They have to be penalties. It doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter if there was 14 other Kiladangan men behind him. It was the cynical nature of it. It doesn't matter if Dennis Maher got through and he still had 13 or 14 Kiladangan lads between him and the goal. It doesn't matter. It's to take the deliberate nature, and even if it happens 45 yards out and you just yank a guy to the ground, I'd love to see a draconian thing like that brought in. And even people might think it's up to the ref to do it, but if it's clearly, in terms of a foul, if something is clearly no attempt to play the ball, you're yanking a guy down, that's clearly obvious. There's no way a team could or an opposition manager think you can't give a penalty for that. Like it's clearly obvious. Like, so
yeah, you can't have rugby tackles. That's what I'd say. Like, and it's no criticism of Joe Gallagher. He did the right thing.
Under current rules, he did the right thing.
Yeah, and we've seen it across the board all weekend. We keep seeing Limerick Championship, Kilkenny Championship,
and it's always in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. So if you say rugby tackle or really cynical tackle, as far as the referee is concerned, anywhere in the pitch where you know that this cynical tackle is to make sure that the opposition can't work a goal scoring opportunity, penalty. There'll be the odd bad decision, but that happens anyway. But if you actually want to stamp it out, this whole thing of, with the black card nonsense at senior level, it has to be inside the 21 and D, and it has to be a goal scoring opportunity, and there has to be this, and there has to be that. No, and then there's a black card that the referee has to keep an eye on for 10 minutes.
Yeah. It
should be as simple as this. Penalty. The referee has no more admin. Give a yellow card as well if you like.
Yeah.
But
because every element of refereeing is subjective. So why are you in certain circumstances putting more parameters around him? Like if a referee just subjectively gives a free for a tug of a jersey, he should easily be able to make a subjective decision that, okay, this is a cynical foul. He's making absolutely no attempt to play the ball here. He's rugby pulling lad to the ground. I know full well what he's at.
Yeah.
He's trying to stop a goal, a chance.
We've had as impassioned an episode of Tippcast as we've ever had. Is there anything else to row about before we finish up?
Jeez, the modern coach, lads, deliberately sending the ball out over the sideline. Oh, that's definitely one that's got to be nipped in the bud straight away. Shane Dowling did this. If you did it last year. Even if you don't, I don't know whether it's instead of a line ball, it's a free or something. If a ball goes out over the sideline direct without landing inside the line, if you know what I mean, it's nearly a free. It's nearly a free the other way.
Okay, so do you know about 3 or 4 years ago, I was saying you can figure out which county manager this is, but his team regularly went down to Nolan Park and got absolutely clipped by 15 to 20 points. Yeah. And I said, what keeps happening is that you hit a puck out, someone catches it cleanly on the Kilkenny team, something that they've generally been very good at. Big roar from the crowd, momentum, they score straight away. And I actually said, you should consider the idea that if you're under pressure, pucking the ball to the far 45, directly over the sideline, set up and go straight away. This is something I'm surprised this didn't happen years ago.
Yeah. I just thought I don't like this. I just thought I suppose it's gamesmanship or this. I just hurling was pure for so long. I just don't like seeing these elements coming into her. You're willingly giving up possession of the ball to. But then you look, bringing rugby into it, the team that generally doesn't have as much of the ball in rugby now tends to win the match. So
did you
it's
like that?
Cross-pollination of a lot of sports now, isn't there?
Did you watch the Rugby World Cup final?
I half did. I watched the second half.
Yeah,
I was out last Saturday night. So
so South Africa on top again. Yeah. That's right. Much more to say.
No, sure.
Not the biggest fan of it anyway. Right, that's it for the show. We'll be back again next week. And
just anybody that's watching, lads, if you want to leave your comments, if you want to ask us any questions, we might do, even though the matches are sort of thin on the ground for the next while. If you want to ask us anything or something you want us to debate over the next while, sure, fire us a few comments, so we'll put a few ideas, and sure, we might try and do a team of the. I'm going to do a team of the year for senior club hurling now next week. So
that'll be fun. Yeah. Okay, folks. We'll chat to you all soon. Shane, we'll do it again.
Okay.